Yo, what's up, everybody? It's Christopher. So, I want to give my first impressions and kind of a little mini review. I kind of just saw Mortal Kombat, the newest movie that everyone's talking about, and then so far, it's okay. I mean, it wasn't like anything too crazy. I mean, there are some moments here and there. I mean, I kind of didn't expect it to have like the greatest plot or whatever, but for the most part, with my experience, it was okay. I mean, if you kind of turn off your brain and it's just kind of like, I mean, there are some cool things, especially considering the fatality. And honestly, the best character, in my opinion, is probably Kato that kind of saves the movie. He's like the only person that kind of has a personality. Everyone's kind of forgettable. So I think you'll enjoy it as long as you kind of just turn off your brain and just like kind of ignore the plots in here or there. And speaking of which, I will get into spoilers in like a hot second. So if you do not want to get this movie spoiled, I'm going to be talking about some main points, the ending, and kind of what's going to be happening in the future of the franchise if it manages, to be successful. So anyways, on to the spoilers. Okay, with the spoiler warning, I hope you guys enjoyed. So, anywho, the Mortal Kombat movie sort of begins with Scorpion goes into his little village and where he introduced his wife, his son, and his little baby daughter. So he's just kind of doing his thing. He goes up to his wife, just like, "Oh man, you're beautiful," or whatever, blah blah blah. And then his baby's crying. And then he sends his son after the baby. He's like, "Hey, go watch your daughter, your sister." I mean, he's like, "Okay." So while Scorpion gets the water or whatever, you notice that in the film, I'm gonna say like this is probably like the best part of the movie, the first 20 minutes or so, just due to the fact that you see like snowflakes hitting the ground, and you already fucking know who it is. It's gonna be Sub-Zero. And then anywho, Sub-Zero ends up going to Scorpion's little village or whatever. And he sends these little ninja warriors, and you see Sub-Zero just fucking murdering his wife, his child. But before they do that, the wife and his little son, they put the daughter away in this little cottage area or whatever to keep her safe from Sub-Zero. So anyway, Sub-Zero kills the wife or whatever, and then you just hear fucking screaming, right? And then Scorpion's just kind of like, "Oh my god, what's happening?" So he kind of just does this thing and then goes towards the village or where he was staying at. Well, it's not really a village, but it's a little house. But whatever, it's the same shit. Anywho, he goes in there, he sees Sub-Zero, and then they begin fighting. Now, these fight scenes in these movies are pretty dank. I mean, but the plot itself is a little weak, but I kind of expected it for these kind of video game movies. But anywho, the first 20 minutes or so, Scorpion and Sub-Zero fighting. They show off, like, their moves, But eventually, of course, Sub-Zero is going to beat him because he has his, abilities already, and Scorpion's just like a normal ninja guy. But Scorpion has his shine moments where he kills a few of Sub-Zero's like little minions or whatnot, and it kind of just goes from there. But the fighting is a little confusing because due to the fact that towards the end of the fight, it's presumed that Sub-Zero kills Scorpion because he slashes him pretty bad. He slams his head on the fucking rock, and then he proceeds to stab like a dagger into his heart or whatever. And while he's doing this, you see Scorpion kind of just like fade into like non-existence. He's just like, "Oh shit," and just kind of dies. And then Sub-Zero is just like, assumes he's dead. He's like, "All right, I did it." So he just kind of like fucks off to like whatever. And then finally, Scorpion ends up recovering. He's like, "Oh my god, I can hear my daughter. She's crying." So as he's about to like go towards his daughter that's in his house hidden, he kind of just dies and just gets sunk into hell. And I'm just like, "Oh, okay. Sure, he's going to do his thing there." And then while that's happening, Raiden kind of appears out of nowhere. And he's just like, "Oh, hey. I'm gonna need some mighty warriors." So he kind of just grabs Scorpion's daughter. And what's really weird about this choice, they don't really mention this daughter throughout the movie. It's kind of just like, "Oh, I'm gonna get this daughter and we're gonna use it for something." But anywho, we fast forward to I want to say like around our time, like in 2020, and we introduced the main new character, Cole. And Cole, for the most part, I feel like he shouldn't belong in this film due to the fact he's kind of just there. And I get that the director kind of want to include like a normal man into Mortal Kombat, but honestly, at the end of the day, who gives a shit? So you see this guy Cole, he's kind of like this amateur MMA fighter dude, but he's getting his ass whooped constantly. And I guess, and the thing about the Mortal Kombat movie I forgot to mention, that kind of sets it apart. They kind of explain like how some of these warriors gain their abilities, and it's because they're born with either the mark of the Mortal Kombat symbol on their chest. And I guess Cole, they kind of explain it, but it took me like a hot minute or two. He's like he's like an ancestor of Scorpion. So he has his little mark, and of course he's losing. He's like no good. And throughout the movie, the director or the writer or whoever was in charge of it kind of makes Cole kind of a pushover. So most of the time, I'm just sitting here wondering, I was like, why is this guy even here? He's just kind of like a background character, but whatever. After his fight with his MMA dude or whatever, he loses. Jax comes to the picture and he's like, hey, man, you got that little Mortal Kombat symbol, and so do I. And he's like, yeah. I was like, how'd you get it? And then Cole's just like, I don't know, man. I was kind of born with it. He's like, all right. So while that's happening, Jax is just kind of fucks off to anywhere. And then Cole goes with his family to kind of eat or whatever to celebrate his non-victory. So while he's eating, of course, while he's eating, they end up showing the villain, which is Shang Tsung. And Shang Tsung is a little weak in this part. He's kind of not that threatening. And then for some reason, like, they mod his voice to kind of sound like a god. But there are parts of where when they mod his voice or whatever, it kind of sounds robotic. And it's kind of funny because in some of the parts in the movie, it kind of goes to his regular voice. I mean, you really can't catch it unless you're, like, really paying attention to it. But, it's fine. Anywho, while that's happening, Shang Tsung's just like, oh, my God. I'm going to finally take over Earth, I'm going to bring in my mighty warriors. And then his warriors are a little, they're cool. I guess a little bit of a spoiler, Melina's in it, but she kind of looks like she has, like, fucking dirt on her face. I mean, you don't really see her fangs or teeth or anything towards the end of the movie. And then, I don't know why they even brought Melina, because they don't mention Shao Kahn at all in the movie. I mean, I know they brought it up here and there when Sonya and and Jax meet up for the first time and discussing, like, the tournament to Cole or whatever. And it's just like, why is she even here with no katana or any of that? But anywho, then you see Ermac, and then you see that vampire lady from Mortal Kombat Armageddon. I forget her name. I think it's like Natara or some shit like that. But anywho, it's pretty cool. So while Shang Tsung is just kind of like introducing like his pack, like his goals in the movie, we cut back to Shang Tsung sending Sub-Zero. Is like, hey man, there's a tournament that's going to happen so we can take over Earth. I'm going to send you, dude, to kind of just kill all of Earth's mighty warriors. And Sub-Zero is just like, all right, bet. I did it with Scorpion, I'll do it for these guys. So while that's happening, Sub-Zero goes after Cole. And then, of course, the coolest scene ever is like Sub-Zero just fucking mowing down like random civilians like left and right. So that was pretty neat. And then while that's happening, Jax just so happens to like be in the same area where Cole is, because I guess Jax was following him in the movie, but they didn't really show it. And he's like, oh shit, I gotta save this guy because we need to stand up to Shang Tsung or whatever because of this Mortal Kombat tournament. So while Jax is doing that, he brings Cole and his family into this truck and they try to like fuck off to somewhere safety or whatever. But then Sub-Zero is just like, nah, I found you, bitch. And they don't really explain how he does it, but they kind of just did it. So Jax is just like, all right, Cole, I need you to go meet up with my old comrade, Sonya. And then Jax, of course, has this fight with Sub-Zero, and we all know what's going to happen. He's going to get fucking destroyed. His arm's going to get ripped off. But the fight itself is A-okay. Well, not A-okay. It's pretty good. So anywho, Cole eventually with Van, he takes his family to this random ass cabin. He's like, hey, you stay here. I'm going to go do my shit. So then Cole ends up meeting up with Sonya that Jax kind of told him where to find her at. And this is where like the best part of the movie comes into play, because Kato absolutely fucking steals this film. If it wasn't for Kato or should I say Scorpion or Sub-Zero, this movie would have fucking sucked. Because Kato is absolutely the Chad. He's the comedic relief. And this entire time, I'm kind of thinking, like, why is Cole even here? I mean, like, we could have just introduced Johnny Cage or get somebody else to kind of replace this guy. Because for the most part, Cole doesn't really fucking do anything. And towards, like, the middle half of the movie, where he just, like, he tries to discover his little symbol that gives the characters powers. But anywho, sorry about the little rant. So after they meet up with Sonya and Kato, they end up fighting Reptilian, which is really Reptile, which is really cool. But I was kind of expecting his, like, ninja form for, like, the other Mortal Kombat games. And I get he's a reptilian, but the movie kind of just turns him into, an actual lizard. I mean, the fight itself is kind of cool because Kato and Sonya and then Cole end up beating up Reptile. But it's eventually up to Kato, who eventually fucking does a fatality towards Reptilian, which was pretty cool. And, of course, being the cheeky bastard he is, he's making, like, references to the games or whatever. And it's just bringing a smile to my face. So, anyways, after that happens, Sonya kind of goes into more details about the Mortal Kombat tournament, and it's a little weird because in the movie they don't really they don't actually show a tournament. It's kind of just like individual fights. So the whole tournament thing is mostly a setup, which is kind of fucking stupid. And I'm just like, why are you even discussing the tournament if these characters are just gonna like fight one-on-one? And I guess you can kind of say like, oh, that's a tournament, Christopher. And I'm like, no, it's not a tournament, man. That's just kind of like a one-off thing. But anywho's, After that, after Kato kills Reptile, they're just like, hey man, we heard about this guy named Raiden. And then he's just like, yeah, or Raiden, whatever. And Kato's just like, I know where he is, but I'm not gonna fucking help you. And then of course Sonya is just like, I'll give you $2 million. And then Kato's just like, all right, I guess. And then I'm kind of thinking, oh, I forgot to mention, Sonya kind of lives in this shithole of a trailer park. So I'm just like, Kato, you can't be this fucking stupid. Like, she obviously doesn't have the $2 million, and it ain't gonna happen. So like, Kato's just like, all right, whatever. So it just so happens that Kato kind of just like does this thing where he's just like, oh, I happen to have like a cargo ship, and we're just gonna go into the middle of nowhere, the fucking desert, to meet up with Raiden. And then that's happening, of course, Sonya and Kato, and then I forget that Cole's even in this movie, because he maybe has like 10 lines in this entire flick, and it's just like, Cole, why the fuck are you here? Why can't we just get Johnny Cage? And that's going to be a big thing towards the end, but I'll get into it as I go on. And then he's just like, okay, whatever. So they get to the desert, and then of course you see Kung Lao, and he's just like, oh shit, what's up, guys? I think I'm mispronouncing his name, but it's fine. I'll fucking edit it later. But anywho's, he ends up meeting up with the guys. He's like, hey, what's up, man? Earth's mightiest warriors, follow me to this temple where my lord Raiden comes into play. And the temple is kind of trash because it's mostly just a cave. And I understand like the budget of the film probably wasn't the highest, but it was a little lame, except for the parts where you see like little images or of from the other Mortal Kombat games. You see like a little mural dedicated to them, so that was kind of cool. And when that's happening, Kato's just kind of being a little shit, and then they're kind of meeting with Raiden and his other boy. Well, what was his name? Hold on, let me pull up right now. All right, so now they get to the temple. They finally meet with their boy Liu Kang, which is, I guess, in this kind of universe, it's Kung Lao's cousin. But anywho, his entrance is great. So, anyways, they're Kato, Sonya, and then Cole. There we go. They end up doing like their little training montages to end up figuring like how to activate their powers, because I guess the big directors in Hollywood kind of want to explain like how these Mortal Kombat characters do their thing or whatever. So the montage happening, and then of course Liu Kang soon and shows up in the temple Raiden and where they're training at, and then he brings his goons, Sub-Zero, Melina, and then Ermac, which was really fucking surprising. I still can't get over it. It's great. So anyways, they start attacking, right? And then Raiden is just like, oh, no, fuck you guys. And then he just puts a barrier. So, like, for the next 30 minutes, they kind of just have, like, a training montage of trying to, like, get their Mortal Kombat symbol to, like, activate their powers. But out of everyone, and, oh, yeah, also, too, Jack somehow survives. And then they don't really explain, like, how he gets into the temple. I mean, Liu Kang, like, mentions it briefly. And he's just like, oh, I found Sub-Zero, so I'm just going to fucking bring him here. So, anywho, they do that. And so they have a little training montage. Of course, Kato steals the show because the way he gets his powers, he's just like such a fucking asshole. And it's just Liu Kang and his cousin just teaming up on him, making fun of him, which activates his laser eye. And then Jax is just being all depressed and shit because he finally wakes up with his little shitty robot arms. Not like the one in the game, but it'll activate later. So anyways, the training montage begins. And of course, Kato, being the little shit he is, and the best character, Ermac, ends up like going back to the temple because he gets like, I think he gets the idea from his master Shang Tsung. Them to kind of convince Kato, since Kato doesn't really have loyalty. He just loyal on the money, but whatever. So they do that, and then he tells Kato, it's just like, hey man, I need you to destroy that fucking barrier with your laser beam, right? And so he's like, all right, fuck it, I'm gonna do it anyways. So they do that, and then they have the biggest fucking fight ever. And I'm guaranteed, like, the movie should have just been like this, just mostly consistently fighting, because I don't know who was in charge of writing the script, because it was just bad. And of course, and Cole's there too, I forgot to mention. So they get their asses whooped, and then Raiden kind of like takes control, and then they're just like, enough, we'll finish this another time. So then they end up retreating, right? And then after that, Cole's just like, I can't fucking do this, man. And the Raiden's like, all right, bet. So he's your portal, go back to your family at the cabinet. So he does that. And then after he gets into the cabinet, he's just like, hey, guys, I let you down. And, of course, the main boss of Ermac kind of just like, all right, bet. Well, all the warriors are down. Let's fucking keep attacking them. So they end up doing that. And, of course, you get your montages here and there. But the biggest thing that kind of pissed me off, which doesn't make any sense, is the way that Cole discovers his powers is the fact that they sent Goro to kind of kill him. But the thing is, Cole somehow manages to kill Goro in like a few hits after he discovers this little symbol when his wife and his daughter are about to get like annihilated by Goro. So he's just like, no. So he gets his weird ass armor and he takes hits or whatever, and then he manages to kill Goro. And I'm just like, dude, you couldn't even win your fucking MMA amateur fights. Like, there's no way in hell you did not have enough proper training to take on Goro, but whatever. They have their battle, and of course the other fellas, including Sonya, Jax, and Kato, are all fighting out with the other characters, which I try not to spoil it because I want you guys to watch this movie, even though it's mediocre, but just watch anyways. So anywho, while that's happening, the heroes end up defeating most of the warriors that Shang Tsung, fuck his name, the leader of Ermac and Melina and all of them. They end up defeating all their warriors in the battle. But the thing is like, oh my god, what really pissed me off is like the one character that has to die is Liu Kung Lao. So when Liu Kung Lao, he sacrifices himself because Raiden's just like, oh shit, guys, like we're losing the battle, you know, with Sonya, Jax, and the rest of them because they're kind of getting their asses whipped, except they killed like 2 people, but I won't say who. So he takes the portal, and then Liu Kung Lao, like, oh shit, cool. Oh, and then Cole's back, by the way, from the portal. He just goes into the portal to meet up with the other guys to like fight, you know, the main baddie or whatever. So while that's happening, he's just like, cool, you need to get in the portal before Raiden closes it. So they do that, right? But I guess Cole was just too much of a dumbass to like not, I guess, react fast enough. So Liu Kung Lao sacrificing his life for no fucking reason just so Cole can like continue his adventure. And I was like, what a wasted opportunity. So while that's happening, Cole is just like, hey guys, I'm the main character now, so I'm going to be in charge of the plot. So he comes up with a plan, and this part is a bit rushed because the final 3 fights between Jax discovering his like little powers after trying to save Sonya after that previous battle I was talking about. He fights that dude with the hammer. I don't know what the fuck his name was. And they end up going to like the pit, right? And the pit is like the most like legendary Mortal Kombat stage of all time. But the thing is like, I guess they ran out of a budget, but they didn't even use the pit fatality. It was just kind of Jax just smashing his head in. I mean, it was cool, but the fight was like less than like 10 seconds long. And then for the other ones, Kato and Sonya go at it. And then Sonya ends up getting the Mortal Kombat symbol because according to the movie, you're either born with it or you can kill somebody with the symbol and get it back. So she ends up killing Kato, and I'm just like, what the fuck? After that shit, I'm just like, nah, I'm good. And then the last fight between Melina and then like Ermac, they go against well, fuck, I believe it wasn't Raiden. Fuck it. Let me pull it up real quick. One's apologies. Cole. There you go. Jesus Christ. So Liu Kang and them are just kind of like doing their thing and they're fighting, right? And then Sonya, after killing Kato, kills Melina with her fucking blasters. And I'm just like, what the fuck? I'm like, you guys literally cucked the shit out of her. Like, her death wasn't even that cool. And then her big costume reveal, her teeth thing, they didn't like show until maybe like the last 5 minutes 30, but it was kind of pointless. But anyways, the fight between those two and then the rest of the group was pretty cool. And then finally, they're kind of losing or whatever. They won their victory. And then, I believe after that big-ass fight, Raiden is just like, all right, guys, I think we took on everyone. We just got to find Sub-Zero. And then Sub-Zero ends up tracking down Cole's family and then kind of like, you know, freezes them just like he did the Scorpion. And then after that shit happens, Sub-Zero goes through this weird-ass portal. And then he's just like, oh, what's so cool? I fucking murdered your family. And it's like, all right, bet. So then the rest of the movie focuses on Cole. So they're just like, fuck all the other characters. We don't give a shit about it. We're going to make Cole a thing. But then the last 20 minutes that Sub-Zero is kind of like fighting Cole, which was pretty lame. I mean, Cole was about to fucking die, even with his little stupid armor set. But then, of course, Scorpion comes back from hell, and then he starts fighting Sub-Zero. And that's where all the budget and the rest of the fighting took place. And I was perfectly fine with that. It was great. And then Sub-Zero and Scorpion do their thing for like 10 minutes. And then eventually, what kind of ruins that fight for me is that I guess Cole gets involved because he sees his like family frozen in like that UFC fighting arena that we were shown in the beginning of the movie where he was first starting. They're completely frozen. They're assumed to be dead, right? And then Cole's just fucking punching the corpse of his daughter and his wife. And then while that's happening, Scorpion's about to do the final move on Sub-Zero. So he tells Cole's... And by the way, Scorpion's only speaking Japanese because he's Japanese. And then it's kind of funny too, because then Cole is just like, what the fuck is this guy even saying to me? So they end up teaming up against Sub-Zero, and they end up winning. And of course, Scorpion does his fatality on Sub-Zero, and then he kind of just fucks off to hell, and then says something in Japanese to Cole again, and which Cole's just like, all right, whatever. And then after that, the rest of the gang kind of show up, and then surprisingly, his family is like coming back to life because of Liu Kang's fire ability. And I'm just like, no, there's no fucking way his family would have survived. They were covered in fucking ice, and then they were presumed dead just like scorpions. So that was stupid, but that's just a whole different thing. And then after that, the main bad guy ends up coming back for revenge, you know. What's his fucking name? Well, you know, I'll just put the fucking image right here in question, because some of these names I just forget. But anywho, that guy ends up coming back, and he's just like, I'm going to, like, you may have killed my warriors today, but I'll come back stronger with an army. So it leads up to, like, the next movie. But I don't think this movie is going to get a sequel. Hopefully it does, because there's a lot of good things and bad things. And then after that, Raiden kind of looks at the rest of the guys. Is like, all right, guys, I'll see you guys next time, and we're going to train some more. And then it cuts to Cole finally, like, going back to where he started again, to that MMA fighting cage or whatever. And then from there, his original trainer guy's like, hey man, you want to do MMA fighting again? And he's just like, nah, I'm good. I'm on the hunt to go to Hollywood. I gotta look for a new character. And once they show a poster of Johnny Cage, and then this whole time I'm kind of thinking like, well, what the fuck was the whole point? I'm like I hope that Cole doesn't like make an appearance at all in the next movie, because he's just so boring. And I don't know if it's just because the writer did a terrible job on him, but it's just like, this whole time it could have just been about like Sonya or Kato doing their thing, and while Cole's just kind of in the background, just there. And I kind of just wish Johnny Cage would have just taken a spot, because that would have been fucking hilarious. So hopefully the movie, you know, does a better job next time if we haven't getting a sequel. But anywho, for the movie itself, I want to say like a strong 6, a strong 7 I would give it out of 10, but that's just my opinion. I just hope you enjoyed this little rant video, and I'll come up with more reviews. So take care, guys. I'm Crisper. Later.